schools. The topic before us is one that calls for serious concerns. And flowing from the recent documentary by the BBC African Eye, which I believe most of us must have stumbled upon, it has sure created an awakening to us all on the issues of sexual harassment, which is now like a norm in schools. I also came across an article of this same issue happening in the UK, and I'm like, whoa, so this is actually not just a Nigerian thing or a West African thing. It is actually an international issue which requires a joint and collective effort. When I was chosen to speak on this topic, my mind went back memory lane, and I was like, oh yes, I actually should have been a victim of sexual abuse. And if I'm to recall, this incident actually happened while I was in secondary school. And yes, I was pretty very much young, and I was not attractive. I had no attractive physique. Like, there was nothing that you could look at me and be like, oh wow, I'm interested in this girl. And there was this teacher of mine in school then. He kept saying, my dear Rose, my dear Rose. It became a national anthem in the school. I was embarrassed and I was frustrated, if I must say. On this fateful morning, I got to school in the morning and he sent for me. When I got to the staff room, will I say coincidentally or intentionally, he was all alone. Immediately I got in, lo and behold, he pulled down his pants and I ran. I fled for my dear life. So I was able to act fast. I was able to run. My head was just calculating, and I was able to flee the scene at that particular point. You know what? I couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't tell anyone. The only things my friends could relate to was because I wasn't attending that particular class again. And if you could know, it actually affected me. Do you know, if I couldn't or I didn't run at that particular point in time, what would have become of me? Your guess is as good as mine. Sexual harassment, misconduct, and gender violence by educators are at epidemic levels in Nigerian institutions and in British universities. Victims of such incidences are now the ones who are disgraced, stigmatized, looked down upon, and being blamed for being vulnerable. Have you ever been put in a compromising situation by a person of authority? Like, the person will make you believe that it's either you do this or you do this. You don't have anything whatsoever. As in, you cannot even progress from a particular level to the other level without compromising. If you have, you would really understand what it is like, and you wouldn't blame the victim for being vulnerable. I am a woman. I am female. It is heartbreaking to keep up with the pressure of sexual advances while on the journey to attaining greater heights. Even if it has not happened to you, I believe and I am certain you know someone who knows someone who has had to endure unnecessary pressure as regards sexual advances, sexual abuses, harassment, and all sorts of despicable utterances by, in quotes, lecturers. We are all made to believe that education is key. While growing up, that's what they told us, so we all strive to want to attain greater heights via education. But with all these trends, these recent happenings, your guess is as good as mine. Is education actually the key to success? With what is going on, I must tell you, sex is actually the key to success. You know what? Women in our society are denied what they deserve and what they are qualified for until they give into sex. Let me take us down memory lane. You know, some cultures and religion do not value girl child and stand as a blockade for a girl child in attaining education. So the girl child in just regions are not expected to go to schools. You know, in some regions, they see it like it is a wasted investment to send a girl child to school because it is no gain to the family to send her to school. She'll be married off to some man at some point in life and there's nothing in it for the family. The patriarchal nature in Nigeria, for example, where men always have to be in control and dominate the systems, like they are the ones in power, they are the ones to do everything, it has resulted in less education for the girl child. So when and if the girl child finally makes it to school, they most times bow to sexual pressure because of what the society expects of them. Because the society see them as not even being good enough to be in school. So when they get into school, they want to prove a point to the society that they are better off than their male counterparts. And they want to make good grades. And not just ordinary grades, they want excellent grades. So they have to just bow to pressure. Do you know educators are like parents? And they owe it a special duty to students under their authority. That is, students who depend on them to shape their future career paths. It is actually extremely, very, very offensive to have educators make sex a prerequisite for advancing to another level. Like, if you don't have sex from 100 level, you keep on carrying over a particular course because of a lecturer. It's disheartening. It is a direct opposite of what a sound educational system represents. And you know what? No, it is not because the educators are sexually starved. They are not sexually starved, because some of these lecturers sleep with half of the girls in a particular class just to pass them. Do you tag that as being sexually starved? He is not sexually starved. I think he is sick and he should get cure. If you ask me where he should get cure, I think he should get cure in jail. Oh, what a time to be alive. What a dangerous time to be female. What a time to join the conversation. Most universities, if you know, and we all know, have no mechanisms in place to stop staff from pressurizing students into sexual relationships. And when it happens, disciplinary actions is pretty much non-existent. Let me give you an example. If you're a lecturer in school and a case has been filed against you by a female student, do you know who the panelists are? Same lecturers who are perpetrators, same lecturers who engage in such acts. So who is going to be trying who? So the woman is just there on her own. She has nobody, and you know what they usually say in school? 4 years. You don't want to succumb. Your 4 years will become 5 years. You will have spills. You will have extensions. You will not even graduate with a good grade. They just give you thank you for coming, which is pass. And if you graduate with pass in Nigeria or in any part of the world, you cannot access any good job. I don't know if you understand what this is taking us to. Those in charge of the panel, like I stated earlier, are also colleagues who have many incentives, and trust me, they will not even want to intervene. Young women are even often terrified about these consequences if they make a complaint about an educator. Sexual abuse is a naked abuse of power and betrayal of public trust, just like rape. Do you know that this is another example of the culture of silence that is dangerous, and it hinders the ability of women and girls to attain their full potentials through education? The reality of being a woman sometimes brings nightmares, because right before your very own eyes, the job you deserve, the grades you deserve, the opportunities you merit will slip off your hand because you have refused to give into the attached sexual condition. And you know what? It is not just lecturers anymore. When the students, if finally they even graduate from the schools and they come out to the real world, that is, they want to make a living, they get out. You know what? The struggle continues, because there's actually sexual harassment to get a job. Even when you've gotten the job, there's sexual harassment for you to get promoted. To even learn a skill, you are sexually harassed. To even get like an investor to buy into your idea or your proposal, sexual harassment is also a key. So this conversation, although we are centering it around schools, we should just know that it goes beyond schools. That is just ending sex for grades. It should be broader because we need to put an end to sexual harassment altogether. We need a lasting solution so women and girls need to know they can feel safe at all times in this society. There's an overwhelming outrage, outpouring of examples, and outright naming of names by perpetrators. Like when I watched the BBC Africa documentary, I was like, whoa. So if persons are beginning to know what is happening, if we do not do something about this now, if nothing is done, people will begin to take laws into their hands. It is great to know that the Office of the Deputy Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has submitted a bill for prevention, prohibition, and redressal of sexual abuse in tertiary educational institutions for listening and reading. That is a good one. That is a welcome initiative. But I just want to also make us know that there is also a need for us to focus on helping victims of sexual harassment and abuse to cope and deal with their turmoil. There's a need for us to reintegrate them back into the society. They need our care. They need our support. Most of the time, it leads to depression. It leads to suicidal thoughts. So if we don't bring them back into the society, I think we have so much to do to help our girl child. So now I'm calling on the Federal Ministry of Education, the National University Commission, student union governments, every other relevant educational bodies to act swiftly. I also urge the media to continuously report sexual abuses violations because the media is actually instrumental in delivery of such, if anything is going to actually make sense and happen fast for women in the society. They are also calling on the judiciary who, you know what, adheres to legal requirements. It's important to drive the change needed to address sexual harassment. Lawyers Alert is an organization I am happy to announce to you that wants to see a developed Nigeria where women and other vulnerable groups are free from injustice. Sexual harassment is injustice. Sexual abuse is injustice. We have this online documentation tool that analyzes trends, violation, age, and violation types of women. And we are happy to make you know that we provide free legal representation and assistance to women and girls who have suffered same. We urge you to report this sort of violation anytime it occurs. I, for one, do not support sexual harassment. I will stand and give the desired support to a victim of sexual harassment and abuse all day and every day. Let us lend our voices to this campaign. Sex for grades must end. Sex for employment must end. Sex for promotion must end. Sex for empowerment must end. Sex as a prerequisite for any favor whatsoever must end. Thank you once again so much for joining us and for giving us your time today. You can drop your contributions in the comment section below us. Do enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you. Thank you. That's ended. The life.
It's the best.